Good morning. Welcome to Supplier Diversity Construction Summit. I am your host, Maricel De Leon from Office of Diversity in Business Practices. Some important reminders before we begin. Please mute your microphone at all times. Use the chat box for questions and comments, and we'll do the same way. All participants logged on by 9:15 will be included in the raffle. You must be present to win. Today, it is an exciting day. We have invited 9 prime vendors to share their upcoming projects and pre-qualification requirements with you. So please be ready with your phone, your pens, and papers to capture the information that you need. We also invited the top leaders of School District of Palm Beach County for a panel discussion. But before we begin, let me introduce to you our moderator. Nikki Sykes is the Director of Office of Diversity and Business Practices. She is responsible for developing policy and procedure, operational strategy, establishing goals, and contract compliance for the district's Diversity in Business Practices program for both construction and goods and services. After heading up to the School District of Palm Beach County's Office of Diversity program for 2 short years, the department won Local Corporation of the Year. She was a featured speaker on the Coffee with Kelly Courageous Conversations segment on 2 separate occasions discussing the following topics: unconscious bias, more prevalent than conscious prejudice, the ABCs of combating systemic racism, what we all can do. Recently, she hosted successfully Real Talk with Black Women, How to Deal with Microaggressions. Event has been monumental because many women were enlightened on how to respond effectively to microaggressions. Let us all welcome Dickie Sykes as she leads the panel discussion on what equity means to the School District of Palm Beach County.
Thank you, Maricel. Good morning, everyone. This is such an exciting day for me. Very rarely do I get to moderate a panel discussion with our top leaders. So let's get started. Our esteemed panelist today is Dr. Deborah Robinson, Board Member, District 7, Joseph Sanchez, Chief Operating Officer, and Keith Oswald, Chief of Equity and Wellness.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate
Wonderful.
it.
Thank you for being here. You know, there's always a big discussion, equality versus equity. How many people really know the difference? Equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities. Equity, however, recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. The district has a bold equity statement. I don't know if you guys have gone online to read it, but let me tell you what a few of the statements are. The School District of Palm Beach County is committed to dismantling racism and other systems of oppression and inequity. Achieving racial equity requires proactive and continuous investment in historically marginalized groups who have endured centuries of systemic oppression. Dr. Robinson, we'll start with you first. Aren't you excited? Aren't you happy? The word inequity has become politicized in many circles. Why is that? And how committed to equity is the district considering the controversy around that word?
Okay, well, that's a lot. And so let me start with this. I am not speaking on behalf of the board. I'm speaking as an individual who happens to serve on the Palm Beach County School Board. So I want to, before I roll into answering your question, I do want to address the word equity, right? I agree with you in terms of the definition that you used. I simply say equity is blessing them according to their need, right? And I often talk about the difference between equity, the verb, and equity, the noun. because most people talk about equity and they're talking about movement, like doing things in an effort maybe to get to those equal outcomes. But I think we have to define what those equal outcomes are. And so it's easier in the academic world to define that. We might say we want everybody to graduate with a high school diploma or whatever. In the business world, I think it's a little bit more challenging to define, but the equal outcomes, I think, is a fair starting place. But I think our disparity studies tell us a lot about what the goal is, right? And so I think we might say that we want people who have their own businesses to have a representative share of the pie, so to speak, right? But that doesn't address the other issues, some of the issues that are reflected in the equity statement, because it doesn't address the accumulated advantage that some people have had over decades or centuries, right? That other people don't have. And I think some of the entry speakers made reference to some of this. So some people will have, just by virtue of their experiences in the business world, maybe through their families or other relationships, they have knowledge of operations, they have knowledge of networking, they have knowledge of how to make those connections. How, for example, I know like at Hampton University, they teach, as if you're a business major, you must learn to play golf. Why is that? Because deals are made on the golf course, right? So, but if you grow up in a family that has this particular business background, you know that. You already swing in the club. You can already talk that language when you run into, to Mr. Sanchez at the coffee shop or whatever, right? I'm just saying, so I think when we define equity to noun, it has to be more than just dollars and cents, even though the dollars and cents are important, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the school board of Palm Beach County, to your question, is, I'll tell you this, I've been on this board for 22 years. We are more dedicated to equity now than we have been over the past 22 years. I think that forces outside of the school district are going to start chopping away at our efforts to reach equity the now by any definition, right? And try to reverse everything back to, some people's good old days, which is a lot of people's bad old days, right? So, yeah, so we'll see. I would encourage everyone to basically send affirmations to the board to stay in the struggle, to be in the struggle to fight for equity, the verb, and equity, the noun.
Okay, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Keith, you're up next.
Okay.
This summit, as you know, is about supplier diversity in construction. But schools purchase millions of dollars in supplies, services, and lots of other things. In your opinion, is supplier diversity considered as much as it should be at the school level?
So first, good morning, and thank you for having me here today. Really appreciate the opportunity. So someone who has been on the academic side of the house for decades now here in the school system, I think there's a lot of room for improvement with that statement. So the fact that I think there's a number of things that have to be done to improve upon what we do as a school system. So one, I think on the academic side of the house, we need to educate people. Why are we even here? Why are we having this discussion? Why do we need an Office of Business and Diversity Practices to begin with? So someone, identify as a white male, so someone who's grown up with somewhat limited understanding of historically how we ended up in this place in our country. It took me time to attend and learn about historically how we ended up here and why we have such a shortage of businesses that are black-owned or women-owned, et cetera. So I'm fortunate that I have this knowledge. If I had this earlier in my career, it would have helped me educate not only in my work, but then how do we educate our students, right? So I think first step is to educate the academic side of the house of why we're here, why we're in this situation, and why we have this office to begin with. And that comes with education. Education is a powerful tool, so people know. Once you are educated and understand that, then what's your role? So what's your role, whether you're, if you're a teacher, if you're a school principal, if you're a director in one of the departments here and you are supporting and going out and purchasing materials, to understand how does this play into, and be more, let me go back. So you talked about the equity statement, but the board also changed its mission statement. And it talked about educating all of our students in an equity embedded system. So it's very short and to the point. So if we're truly talking about equity embedded system, how do we change our practices, the way we think and operate on a day-to-day basis, so that we don't have to have a equity office or a chief of equity, right? So because it's just the way we do business, and there are no disparities to discuss. So, so addressing an equity embedded system means that we do need to educate the academic side of the house, understand our role and how we play that out with whatever your role is. And then how do we create more tools for people on the academic side of the house and how they operationalize this particular work, I think is going to be key. And then if we, as a system, if we look at it circular, if we take it full circle, how do we educate our students, right? So we have a lot of programs and opportunities for our kids, but how do we help them understand historically how we ended up in this place and what's their role as they're preparing for their future? So the type of classes they're getting into in high school, their opportunity to lead into the workforce and take on this role and support our school system by living here in the community.
Well, thank you. Well, that's a perfect segue for me to tell you that we created an electronic vendor flip book specifically for our admins, bookkeepers, and principals, so that they can easily identify who our vendors are in promotional items, physical education, our education consultants. So we have in fact, we just updated our volume 2 yesterday, and that will be going out. So we're working on it. We're trying to get them educated on what supplier diversity means and how it benefits our students, their parents, and our neighborhoods. So thank you for that.
Great.
Joe, you're up next.
All right, ready.
In your opinion, has the district committed the resources necessary to implement and enforce its equity statement as it relates to operations?
Well, thanks, Dickie, for the question. I think we do need to give our board some credit for investing resources in equity and trying to achieve the equity that we profess to believe in and want to achieve. We have spent the money on a disparity study, not once but twice, to make sure we have a disparity study, and then we've created the Office of Diversity and Business Practices, and we've staffed it with talented people such as yourself and the other folks that work there. So we've made that financial commitment, and that's something that the board deserves some credit for doing. There's always more that we can do. You know, we were talking earlier before we started about the number of programs that your office puts on, almost 2 or 3 a month, or if not more, in sessions like this, the university that Claudia spoke about earlier. I mean, all the things that's being done are a demonstration of our commitment to making sure that small minority women-owned businesses have an opportunity to participate with the school district and to grow their businesses. And it's not just, stamping, a done stamp on something. We're committed to it. I mean, I know that you have individuals that go out to the job sites that make sure things are getting done. That's a resource. That we have, we have people who check the pay applications to make sure that firms are getting paid. We have people to verify the certifications to make sure that that when folks ask to be certified with us, that they are truly qualified to be certified with us. Those are resources that the district has put forward. There's always more that can be done. We talk about what other steps can be made, because we haven't achieved our goals yet. So until we achieve our goals, we're going to have to keep looking at what else can we be doing to make sure that there's equity. I've mentioned to many people since I've come back to the district that one of my goals is to make sure that we have an SBE, MWBE, a women-owned business, build an entire school. I think it's great that we have all these partnerships that firms like Randolph, who spoke earlier, are partnering with the Pertles of the world and the Kaufman-Linds and others. But I want to see these firms in the prime position where they're the ones who's building the entire school. I want to sign a contract or put before a superintendent a contract for $20 million to sign, to approve building the entire facility. So that's my goal. Until we achieve that, we have to continue to put the resources where they are. I know that we're limited by what we get from the state and what we get from the taxpayers, but we're going to make sure we spend those resources wisely and achieve the goals that we want to achieve.
Thank you, Joe. Did everyone hear that? So when I go to him and say, Joe, I need 1 or 2 more people, he's committed, people, he's committed. So I'm holding it to you, Joe.
Hey.
Dr. Robinson, can you talk about the relationship between equity and supplier diversity and what that means from a board perspective?
So again, I'm going to speak on behalf of myself. So for me, it means looking at the whole pathway to get to the point that Mr. Sanchez described and more, right? So, from my perspective, we have these reports that are on the board agenda every month, and I frequently pull them just to reject them, to say that this is not satisfactory. I don't know how many people really internalize or embrace or feel the disparity that those numbers represent. But I think in addition to the work that's done in your office, there has to be, I think that we have to understand, we meaning the school district need to understand that to some extent we're not going to reach our goal until we really look completely at the pipeline, right? And I think that we have some obligation to develop that pipeline. So when I say the pipeline, so it's easiest to talk about construction trades, right? So we have construction academies, and then we can be intentional about recruiting young people of various backgrounds to the construction academies, and then supporting them. And maybe some of the people who are participating in this conference would agree to mentor a young person in the construction academy and walk them through and support them through. And then we, as a system, help to support them as they go further with their education and do internships. So we're doing our summer equity internships again. But I think that we need to look at that whole pipeline in addition to looking at who's out there now and how do we support them, right? But when, I think that when people say that they can't find a person in a particular area that would meet their SBE or MWBE goals as a sub, we just need to make sure that's not true. We just need to make absolutely sure it's not true. And as you've been doing, making those connections to develop the relationships. But we have to look at the whole thing. And there's a lot to that. We've had a lot of conversations in the past about people who have experience but not paper, people who have paper but not experience, right? And how do we use our resources to get each category of folks who are raising their hands saying, I want to actively participate in this work? How do we use our resources to give them that opportunity and develop them, right? And so, yeah, so to me, it's a whole chain. It's pre-K to college in business, right? And some of that is experiences. Mm-hmm. So I hope that makes sense. It makes perfect sense to me. I'm just saying.
Can I add to that? Yeah. I want to add to that a little bit because Dr. Robinson is the one that kind of opened my eyes to what the opportunity is here for us at the school district. I mean, in terms of supplier diversity, we have the opportunity to impact a lot, right? So one is supplier diversity and giving contracts to small business, minority business, women-owned businesses is a way for us to demonstrate to students in our schools that once you graduate, there is something there for you. We're going to support you not just when you're in school, but you're going to have an opportunity to work with us and earn some income after you've graduated from high school. And number two, we're supporting their parents now, right? So when we give contracts to a company that is owned by, a minority or a local person, a women-owned business, those people now have the opportunity to hire more people, and they have an opportunity to support their staff and support their students, because there is a nexus between socioeconomic status and student achievement. So when we're doing our job to make sure that we give opportunities to the parents of our students, we're helping those students academically and giving them the opportunity to grow and to get the best out of their life as well. So I want to thank Dr. Robinson for opening my eyes to that. So we're on a mission here. I'm in operations, but operations is intimately connected with academics to make sure that we're being successful overall as a district.
Right. That's an excellent point. It's like a thread that goes all the way through. I think everyone here understands and knows. I think we lost connection?
Yeah, they told me to reconnect because I guess the audio's not working, so.
Okay, thank you. These things happen.
Some great stuff there, didn't we?
Yeah, that was like, was it recorded?
I don't know if they,
Your best work.
I know, right?
I know, right?
Give me some coffee. I
And
might
we
remember.
came here last week, we did a whole dry run.
Yeah.
Say it again?
We did a dry run
Oh,
to
with the
make sure that.
technology?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, it's just technology, right?
yeah, I'm saying.
Do we have to repeat that, Joe? Can you remember?
Hardly.
Maybe we should have had this all just on Zoom. We should have had this part on Zoom. You connect to your computer.
From home.
Roll with it, roll with it.
There you go.
I thought Zoom was outlawed in the school.
It's not supported. I don't know if it's outlawed.
No, but when we, okay.
Hello? If you can hear us, put your thumbs up. Give us a thumbs
Yes.
up if you can hear us.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Wonderful. I hope you heard, Joe, you want to just talk about a little bit, I don't know where people left off.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we dropped off, but I was saying that the unique opportunity that we have at the district is to impact students in a number of different ways. Because when we give contracts to small minority women-owned businesses, that demonstrates to our students that there's an opportunity for them after they graduate. I want a high school student, a middle school student to see that, somebody who wants to start their own plumbing business, as one of the speakers said, that my school district is going to support me when I start my business. And I think that's a unique opportunity for us is to be able to demonstrate to them that we are invested in them throughout their career at school, but also after they get out of school as well. And then when we give contracts now to their parents, they have an opportunity to hire other people as well. And because there's a interrelationship, there's a correlation between socioeconomic status and student performance. When we give job opportunities to their parents, it opens up the opportunity for them to expose their children to more, to take trips, to take them to the museums, and provide them with private lessons for dance or music, whatever their interest is. So we're in a unique position that we can benefit students, even from the operations side of the house, to make sure that our students are successful both now while they're in school and also when they get out of school.
Thank you, Joe. Dr. Robinson and both of you said an interesting word, pipeline. Pipeline is huge because what we're seeing in the industry, and I think everybody can concur and agree with this, that there is disparity not only in the blue-collar workers, but there's also disparity in white-collar workers. I was reading just yesterday that 3% of project managers are people of color. I mean, I was floored by that, 3%. So what we're really trying to do, I know specifically at the Office of Diversity, is to ensure we have I can say we have a great relationship with our prime vendors, with their subcontractors. So we're asking them to look at the totality of inequity, not only as it relates to subcontractors, but as it relates to the people that they hire. And it's a big ask. It is a big ask from us, but if you're going to deal with inequity, you have to look at it through the spectrum of the people that it impacts in your particular industry, or you will not have an industry. So you have to bring people along and educate them and mentor them and help them grow. So speaking of that, Joe, I'm going to go back to you quickly. You have had the opportunity to work for multiple school districts. You understand, you are on the private side of things, so you really understand supplier diversity. You understand the complexities of it all. So how does the Palm Beach County School District compare to others in terms of supplier diversity in construction? What are you seeing?
Well, thanks, Dickie. So I spent, between my stints at Palm Beach County Schools, I spent 8 years in the private sector, working for Miami-Dade schools, Broward schools, Miami-Dade College, Broward College, FAU, a lot of different places I did some work for. And I got the chance to compare how different programs were operated. And I have to say that Palm Beach County, in my opinion, and I maybe a little bit biased, but I think that we're doing an excellent job. I think that there are other things that I always believe that we can learn from other people. Sometimes you learn good things and sometimes you learn things not to do. But there are definitely some things that I've learned working in the private sector for those other agencies that have informed me about how we can even do a better job here in Palm Beach County schools. You mentioned, Dickie, we want to look at the totality. We want to look. I mean, we know that a lot of the individuals who are on this meeting today have spent some time working for other people before they started their own business. So we want to encourage non-minority, non-small businesses to make sure that they are hiring people of color, and make sure they're hiring women, and giving them that opportunity. And they may leave you eventually, to go off to start their own business, but I think that's good overall for our community and for our economy as well. So we want to encourage that. There's other entities out there that look at how are their prime contractors spending their money on other private sector work, for example, right? So we know, we always get these proposals to say, on my last 3 school district jobs, I had, 25, 30% SBE or MWBE participation. But I want to know, how are you doing on that condo you're building down the road? How are you doing on that mall, or how you did in that last restaurant you built? I want to know that you're not just trying to formulate something to help us out, because the folks who are the small businesses on this call and elsewhere who work with us, they can't sustain themselves on one project every 3 years from the school district. They need to have continuous work so they can grow their staffs and they can grow their businesses and, increase their capacity to do even more work. So I'm always looking for ways to learn how we can do those things, how we can increase capacity of our firm so that they can continue to grow and do more in the future.
Dr. Robinson, I see you nodding your head and not.
My work here is
Keith,
done.
do you see her just nodding her head?
Yes.
Anything you would like to add to that statement?
So I grew up in a Baptist church, so we affirm people, right? So,
Well, can I get an amen?
so I think I certainly can't disagree with anything Mr. Sanchez said, and I do think that Palm Beach County School District is ahead of other school districts in some ways. But my real question is, how do we know, right? So, and Mr. Oswald knows I ask this question on the academic side with great regularity, right? Show me the data. And so I know this conversation is about construction, but it's still, how do we know, right? So, we've had some data collection issues which have to be addressed because how do you know, right? So we're moving a lot. And your office is doing a lot of things. But when I compare to the academic side, we can have, for example, an outstanding reading program that has rave reviews all over the world, and we're moving, we're doing this, we're doing that. But if the children don't learn how to read, it's off or not, right? And so the question is, how do you know, right? And so I would just encourage us to continue to work to make sure that our data collection is thorough and accurate. And then when you said the totality of inequity, which just really triggered me, and so I'm really not going to run down that road too far, but to say that even in your construction business, you interact with other people. So you might have an accountant, you might have a lawyer. I don't know who all you have, but each of those folks have their own business, which has its own pipeline that we can help to develop, right? And so I would just encourage us to expand our view of that pipeline that we can support, and to constantly remember that we have to lift while we climb. Thank you.
Very well. Keith, I don't want you to feel left out of there. Your role as Chief of Equity and Wellness. A lot of times business, when a person is growing a business, they don't even understand how wellness impacts their business. So, first of all, what is your role, and what can you tell small business owners about wellness and how they need to interject wellness in their companies? Because I think that's huge.
Sure. So let me first talk a little bit about what the wellness side of my work is. So it deals a lot with the safety of our school campuses. So it goes from everything from prevention to intervention. So on the safe school side, what type of programs are we putting in place so that we create schools that are positive, safe, where students can actually learn and thrive and connect to what they're learning? So prevention programs there. But then what do we do when kids are having more challenges and issues? So how do we intervene to ensure that that we're providing a safe campus? So you've probably seen an uptick in, or seen the news where there's more threats that are going on with our students. Social media is definitely thriving for our students, and not always in a very positive way. So how we quickly address the threats on our school campuses to ensure that that safe environment continues is critical. Under our support services, so our students who need additional support, who have come with more challenges in life, so overseeing those alternative schools, which is also a huge opportunity. If I can quickly connect to, Mr. Sanchez is very closely involved with the Riviera Beach Prep program and Nortec and the construction program that we want to build there, and how do we give the students who have had struggles through their education career an opportunity to still get credentialed and move forward. Under our multicultural department, how are we looking at really looking at language as an asset and not a deficit, so increasing our dual language programs, and how do we promote those kind of opportunities, our second language learners in general, how do we cultivate what they bring to the table, maintain that throughout their educational career, and to take that into the workforce and support that work. On the equity side of that, you talked about the equity statement, but you may or may not know there's an equity policy as well that the district has. So how we operationalize that equity policy is probably the work that I'm probably most excited about, in ensuring that if I'm doing my job well, and really wanted to get into this piece, is how do we call out the system when it's not succeeding? So there's a lot of disparities that exist. Dr. Robinson mentioned about reading scores. So how do we, calling that out, ensuring that we address early childhood issues, gifted programming. We have disparities of students of color that are not in our gifted programming. So how do we, address that early on? So when we talk about when students get into high school, they have many more opportunities to take a different accelerated coursework and courses that are going to help them succeed. So, our goal is obviously to graduate students from high school, but it's not only to get that high school diploma. And when we talk about equity, how are we ensuring that the classes, the opportunities of what that high school experience is like for our students, and that doesn't just start in high school, it starts in middle school. Are they taking courses that are going to better prepare them, that are going to give them more credentials, are going to give them more post-secondary courses before they even graduate, so that if they're going into post-secondary schools, that they have many more opportunities. And we know there's disparities, great disparities that exist. So how we ensure that those opportunities are happening for our kids is crucial. And I think, Dr. Robinson mentioned, and you talk about how this group, so this is about construction, so we have academies throughout, right? So there's academies, and I think that if you're not part of any of our career academies, how do you get involved in our career academies and become on our advisory committees? How do you work to mentor and support, provide internship programs for our students? And then how do we provide externship programs for our educators? So, we have a program through our STEM Council where, years back, taking our teachers, having them work in the summer in some of our businesses so that they understand exactly what you're looking for as an employer, I think is critical. So if there's opportunities where you could offer externship programs, hire some of our educators in the summer, and it doesn't just have to be, the construction academy, right? So how do we connect to our math that is needed for construction academy? Other coursework that could provide great opportunity for our educators to make the education our students are receiving much more real, and to really relate that to the students when they go back in the fall and start teaching them again. So I think that would be a great opportunity, and I challenge you all to think about how that might play out.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I just don't want everyone to think that we just focus on construction. We are having a Supplier Diversity Goods and Services Summit, and we're going to align that summit around the vendors in our ebook who really fall on the goods and services side of the house. So that is forthcoming. We have a lot of wonderful things forthcoming. Small Business University, we're in the process of developing that curriculum, and it will start in May and go on for 12 weeks, teaching vendors how to do PowerPoint presentation, marketing, how to develop relationships. So it's really, our job is to educate, train, and connect people to opportunities. But since we're running out of time, I'm going to give you all about a minute and a half to wrap up your final words of the day, or words of wisdom to the audience. Dr. Robinson? Joe?
All right, my final words are, I have a job to do, and I want to challenge you to challenge me, to keep me accountable, I said there's some things I want to accomplish, and there's things that need to happen. And obviously in my job, I get a lot of things coming at me from a lot of different directions. I got food services, transportation, and facilities, three big departments. besides the Office of Diversity. And so things are coming at me constantly, but I ask you, if you are serious about growing your business and you're serious about the challenges that you're facing, and if there's something that I can do to kind of knock down some doors for you, please let me know. And it may take you 2 or 3 times to make sure I follow through and do it, because I got some of the other things going on. But be persistent, be patient, but also be persistent, and you'll get the help that you need from our office. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, I'm excited. So again, I want to thank you for the opportunity of being here. I think just being here for myself, my own growth, is quite an awareness, and kind of opened my doors of, in the role of equity, a whole nother landscape of things I think that Dickie, you and I can follow up with afterwards. I do challenge this group to, if you have suggestions for the academic side of the house of ways to improve, some of you probably went through our school system and experienced it firsthand, on ways to improve what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, please do reach out. You know, I'm pretty easy to find. Keith.oswald@palmbeachschools.org. Send me an email. It's probably best to give ways to improve. Also, how do you, and then again, I'll go back to challenge you, how do you open up your doors to students, to educators, to learn firsthand what you're doing on a daily basis of how you try to grow your business, and what we need here from the workforce and on the education side. So, and then again, and that also includes mentoring, career academies, many different ways to engage on a regular basis. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here today. I was trying to think of something profound, right? But I just want to say, you know, I was a small business owner for a short while. I was in private practice, internal medicine, and I have to tell you, that whole eat what you kill thing is a whole, that's not for the faint of heart, right? So I have to, you know, have to admire those of you who have your own businesses and who are continuing to survive and grow despite the obstacles in your way. My request would be that you show us the obstacles that we put in the way. I think this is what Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Oswald were saying as well. Show us the errors of our way so we can make our processes smoother, more welcoming, because at the end of the day, it will improve our community. And what you tell us today will also help open the door for somebody tomorrow. So hopefully we can continue working together.
I told you it wasn't sure name on the
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I just want to close by saying that we don't know all the answers, but we're trying to learn and grow every single day to be better so that we can provide more opportunity for all of you on Zoom today. And on March 3rd, we're having a workshop, how to apply for solicitations using Periscope S2G. That will be on March 3rd. On March 8th, for the first time in history, we're doing, we have a platform where we can train our internal staff on ways that public procurement, everyone, there's billions of dollars that go out in public procurement. We're going to have a construction lawyer give us a training class on how to mitigate unconscious bias in public procurement. So what we are working and trying to do it from various ways to try to create more opportunity for all of you. Everyone knows my email address, dickie.sykes@palmbeachschools.org. We send out surveys. Please email me with any questions and concerns. And I'm so thankful that you participated in this morning's session and enjoy the rest of Supplier Diversity Construction Summit. Thank you all. And thank you for our terrific panel. Give them a thumbs up. Give them a virtual clap. Thank you.
Thank you all.